So before we jump into the hilarity that is today's video, I thought I'd start by shilling Vipersword's fundraiser on GoFundMe. You see, she's been screwed over by the Department of Work and Pensions, something which she does explain in a video where she herself references this GoFundMe. I know many people over the years that have been hit by the Department of Work and Pensions' colossal screw-ups. A lot of it doesn't come down so much to transparency, but entirely because of communication issues between different departments for benefits, which is one of the main reasons I support Universal Credit, as it houses all benefits in one area, which to most would sound like a reasonable and good idea. It's just a shame the rollout has been an absolute embarrassment, almost as much of an embarrassment as Brexit has become. So if you are able to and want to help Vipersword, because this is quite a big ask and quite a lot of money is being requested by the DWP of her, to the point where she has lost benefits and might lose her home as well, please consider donating towards it. It is linked below. Now the subject of today's video, and where some of the earlier mentioned hilarity itself will come from, comes courtesy of the Daily Mail. Whether you like them or not, I don't particularly care, because there are things referenced in this that have themselves studies which are of interest, and point out a remarkable error in the push for equality that we are currently experiencing. Because of the way things have gone, I've started to get the impression that life is going ahead like it does in the WWE, where it goes through eras which last about 8 years, and we're currently going through one that is so PC that it's tanked the ratings on Doctor Who. So PC, people are very uncomfortable saying anything or taking away anything from someone based on their race. That isn't even a joke. I mention this because while we're busy pushing for gender equality in all areas of life, which I'm not against the idea of gender equality, to be clear, I have said this many times, equal opportunity, fine. The concept of equal representation, therefore denying equal opportunity because of how you'd implement equal representation, I'm not in favour of that. I'm not in favour of gender quotas. I truly believe in meritocracy, and only the best, or the most well-connected, should have any opportunity at succeeding, and yes, the latter part of that was sarcasm, honestly. I know someone's going to pick up on it. The reason for this rather long introduction is because of this rise of feminism has only made men more ambitious, as they are driven to compete for top jobs and salaries against women, a study says. I personally see this as a good thing. The more competitive the employment market is, the better. It makes people more productive, and that drives profits, potentially. It creates opportunity for innovation, depending on the field, of course, and it is in and of itself better for the NHS, who will have more patients to treat from aneurysms and stress-related problems. Do I need to hold up another sarcasm sign for that? Greater awareness of the inequality between the sexes has seen women ascend to highly paid jobs, but this feminism success story has also made boys more ambitious. I'd hate to be the woman that has earned her way to the top without feminism, hearing that feminism is taking credit for it. I'm not, by the way, denying that feminism hasn't influenced certain elements that have improved society for women, and possibly improved society as a whole, not denying any of that. It's very hard to look past the poisonous elements that do taint the movement, or taint the achievements of the movement, depending on which way you look at it. And I'm going to restate it. I don't see boys being more ambitious because they realise girls are now trying to be more ambitious like them as a bad thing. There is nothing wrong with that unless we're looking at it from the lens of, but you're trying to be more alpha. That's not good. Oh, and the way the study phrases things, which truly astonishes me, it treats this as if it is inherently bad, that boys wanting to be more ambitious harms equality for women, which then comes across quite clearly as an obvious message that we have to keep boys down so that women can catch up, which is not only insulting to boys and openly indicating inequality in that regard by treating boys on a lower playing field, but it's also remarkably condescending towards women who want to strive for success in a fair market. The way a fair market would operate would be when both get to do what they want, be who they want, compete with whomever they want to compete with, and if they don't get the results or they do get the results, commiserations or congratulations. So I wanted to add this now because it is quite a damning statement for what the LSE researchers concluded, which is, by the way, the London School of Economics. Research from a British university, LSE, has found that women have advanced in fields such as law and accountancy. Cool. But men remain in the best paid and most prestigious management roles. You don't suppose it's because they have tenure or partnership or they've, been there for a while. It's going to take time for those girls who have got the jobs now to earn their way up the rank. I'm just putting that idea out there. But I also want to point something out of rather interesting points. I did take the opportunity to speak to an old uni friend of mine, housemate in fact, who studied law, and she pointed out to me that one of the things that held her back when it came to British law was how well connected people were within the rather elitist field of law, to the point where she ended up going to New York and taking the bar over there. She's now a very successful lawyer in New York because she couldn't get far in Britain because of the elitism. So I thought I'd just point that out. I'm not so familiar with accountancy, but it's great there is a mathematical related field that women are getting involved in. A report has found that a major cause of this is the redoubled efforts from males to compete for the best jobs. Am I the only person that doesn't see this as a bad thing? Boys are competitive. That's not even a joke. I'm competitive in some areas where I take personal interest. Otherwise, I'm quite lazy, but the competitiveness, very much a male trait. Nothing wrong with that. We like to win. Researchers at the LSE warn this could stunt the progress being made to eradicate the gender pay gap. So earlier on I mentioned how the report and study, of course, indicate that basically you want to hold guys back to let girls catch up, which means you are therefore creating inequality because you already have a level playing field, which would deny someone from using their best attributes from succeeding, cause gender equality. But in and of itself, it is not gender equality, all the while being remarkably condescending to the girls at the same time. Was it patronizing? Doesn't matter. You do not eradicate a gender pay gap when some of these fields are negotiated salaries. This isn't how it works. Some have bonuses. Law, I know for a fact, does. You don't eradicate it by depriving guys the opportunity or holding them back from wanting to be better. You really have to marvel at how the London School of Economics has managed to come to the conclusion that the only way to eradicate the gender pay gap, earnings gap to be clear, is to stunt the progress of men. I don't know how many times people have to say this. Men and women are not the same. Men, generally speaking, tend to negotiate better salaries. If you want to eradicate the pay gap, why don't you do something very cool, something really hip that'll totally motivate everyone to go to work and pay everyone the exact same amount of money? I mean, that'll totally make them want to succeed. Or we could just abolish capitalism altogether and make it so people just work. I wonder how many degrees of separation we are from Krypton and the Codex. Sarcasm sign here. If anyone's wondering why I've been mentioning sarcasm signs, it's because there have been a few people who take me far too literally, or assume my emotional stability or instability. Yes, I think these sarcasm signs help. The findings come shortly after it was revealed that for people under the age of 40, the gender pay gap is close to zero. I would assume that as they got older, priorities in life changed. But of course that's sexist, so I won't say that. Or declare that as something I've said even though I've already said it. It is also allegedly shrinking for people in their 40s. Fantastic. Now can someone do me a favour and tell me how some of the big companies are being forced to pay people the same amount of money for not doing the same job? I think it's Morrison's or Asda, where they have warehouse workers who do all the heavy lifting, being paid more than those on the shop floor who don't do the heavy lifting. But the ones on the shop floor being predominantly female are demanding the same pay as those in the back. Is this how you're attaining gender equality? By saying they do the same work when they don't. Now I know there's an obvious biological difference, which means men generally can do more heavy lifting because, we're all incredible hulks. Even this ripped specimen. The LSE paper was based on evidence from a large scale of national surveys of children born in 1958, 1970 and 2000. Analysis of the research has found that boys born in 2000 have higher aspirations than previous male generations in terms of income, to the point where the gender pay gap could actually become larger than it is at present if these aspirations are fulfilled. I can't be the only person that thinks this, but it's starting to sound a bit like a conspiracy theory. I'm not entirely sure I'm okay with this. I personally don't take any issue with any of it. I've stated it a few times already, with people wanting to be better, succeed, successful. So why is this study and the article almost portraying it as if it is? It's implied, which is enough of a reason to concern me. Men continue to dominate science, technology, engineering, finance, and politics, the report said. Well, that's not surprising. Men like science because it's a rather competitive field. Tech, especially engineering, well, it's part of tech. Finance, well, someone has to be responsible with money. And politics, because we like to shout at each other, and we call it politics. It's adorable, right? The report explained, boys are increasingly geared towards jobs with significantly higher levels of competitiveness and larger incomes compared to previous generations and their current female peers. It was also found as part of the research that the growing ambition of men is contributing to male prominence in the most senior jobs, such as chief executives, chief financial officers, chief operating officers, and other senior management positions. Researchers Dr. Grace Lorden and Dr. Warren something said, the changing preferences of males are contributing to stubborn gender gaps in traditionally male-dominated positions. Noteworthy is that males in the most recent cohort are aspiring to work in occupations with significantly higher levels of competitiveness and larger income as opposed to previous cohorts and their current female peers. Is it me, or does that sound like men are moving to other areas to work because they can't stand working with women? Or they feel there's perhaps not as much of a competitiveness when there are women in those environments? Perhaps. I'm only putting that idea out there. I'm not saying I believe it, but it's certainly something that occurred to me after about 15 minutes of thinking. They said that while women conquered once male-dominated industries, males had not moved the other way and infiltrated traditionally female-centric professions. Well, that's because they're incredibly boring. For example, to be a carer, you have to care. Well, pay is shit, and empathy is not free. I'm not trying to denigrate those that do it, by the way. Most of my family have worked in care all their lives, but it is a really poorly paid field, and money does certainly talk. To finish, I would very much like to know what you all think about this idea that it's inherently a bad idea or a bad thing, or seen and portrayed as a bad thing, that guys are getting more competitive and are doing more to get ahead by being more proactive, which is somehow being portrayed as a bad thing, which baffles me. So please let me know in the comments below. So I hope you all have a lovely Sunday, and thank you all for listening.